To chair this session along with Dr. Rajendra Rao, we have Dr. A.C. Ashok, a seasoned administrator, who is Principal and Dean at Chandrama Dayanand Sagar Institute of Medical Education and Research, Kanakpura Road, Bangalore. Can I welcome Dr. A.C. Ashok on stage, please? Can we have the intro audio visual for Dr. A.C. Ashok, please? Can we have the video for Ashok sir? Apologies for the technical glitches, I'm sorry. We will have his video in just a minute. Before that, I will take an opportunity to kindly invite the keynote speakers for today on stage. We have our own Dr. H.R. Nagendra, Guruji, the Chancellor for S-VYASA deemed to be University. As the first plenary speaker, Guruji, kindly welcome on stage. We have Professor Mark Arthur King from the Sports Biomechanics Department from Loughborough University, UK. Can I have the privilege of having Professor Mark coming on stage, please? We also have somebody from the food, very important aspect of our life, sports nutritionist, Ms. Geeta Galiawar. I request you, madam, to kindly join us on stage. I hope the technical glitches are sorted out and we will have the video of Dr. A.C. Ashok now.
Dr. A.C. Ashok is a qualified general surgeon, academician and an excellent administrator. He completed his post-graduation from Delhi. He was awarded the Pyarelal Sharma Gold Medal in Surgery, Best Resident and Best Surgical Teacher from the Ministry of Health. He is the member of the Association of Surgeons of India, Fellow of the International College of Surgeons, member and faculty of the International Trauma, Life Support, and has a fellowship in Minimal Access Surgery. He has completed the Senior Executive Management Program from IIM Bangalore. He brings over 24 years of teaching experience and over 11 years of administrative experience as Registrar Academics, Principal and Dean of a leading medical college in Bangalore. He has also served as Medical Director for Sagar Hospitals, Bangalore.
It is an honor to have all the chairpersons joining us today.
Dr. A.C. Ashok is a qualified general surgeon, academician, and an excellent administrator.
It is an honor to have both the chairpersons and the esteemed speakers with us today. With this, I hand over the stage to the chairpersons for further proceedings.
Very good morning to all of you. We have this plenary session, and the title of the session is Optimal Sporting Performance and Holistic Approach. And the first speaker today is Reverend Dr. H.R. Nagendra. We'll be talking about the topic Overview of INCOFYRA as an Indian traditional sports for medicine modality and performance enhancement for the next class. Welcome, Guruji, Dr. H.R. Nagendra, to the presentation.
Can we have the AV of Guruji, please? I request the technical team to kindly help us make sure that we are running the program smoothly.
Dr. H.R. Nagendra, Chancellor of S-VYASA, Swami Vivekananda Yoga Anusandhana Samsthana, a deemed university, earned a PhD in Mechanical Engineering from IISc Bangalore in 1968. After research stints at NASA and Imperial College of Science and Technology, he joined Vivekananda Kendra in 1975.
From 1986 to 2000, he served as secretary of Vivekananda Kendra Yoga Research Foundation and director of Indian Yoga Institute. Since 2000, he has been president of S-VYASA. Dr. Nagendra has authored 30 research papers in engineering and 150 on yoga, guiding nearly 50 PhD students. He received the Padma Shri in 2016 and various international awards, including the Distinguished Leadership Award. Presently, he holds key positions in organizations like World Yogasana, Vivekananda Yoga University, USA, WHO, and Ministry of Ayush, among others. He has served in numerous capacities, including Planning Commission member, and has been honored for his contributions to yoga globally.
General on okay.
My dear brothers and sisters, I welcome you all to this first plenary session of the technical scientific session. I am glad that we have honorable chairperson for this plenary session. As all of you know, the theme of this conference is integrating sports, medicine and rehabilitation. And I would like to present to you an integrated approach of yoga and its impact on sports performance. So by now, many of you are familiar with the Panchakosha concept. This forms the basis of this entire creation is not merely physical. It has totally 5 fields. The physical world today we know all of energy, the energy field, that is the electromagnetic field. Then encompassing that is the pranic and the bioplastic field. Then we have the astral field and the mind field. Then we have the information field and the bliss field. All these 5 fields are in continual interaction. And that which is beyond is pure consciousness, and that is unchanging. The 5 layers, 5 fields are in continual interaction, and also on changing and changing and changing. That which does not change is the original state of this whole creation. That's called Kaivalya by Patanjali, called as moksha in Jnana Yoga. It's called as pure consciousness. It is a state of infinite knowledge, power, freedom and bliss. It is from the pure consciousness the whole Jagat, whole creation has come, all the 4 lives. So this is the basic concept on which the integration can take place. So the basis for the integrated approach has been put forth in this direction. And yoga concretizes this wisdom way of the Upanishads, which are part of the entire Vedic culture, by systematic practices and understanding. So yoga is the foundation of Indian culture, which is the greatest contribution of India to world thought and culture. Yoga, therefore, is multidimensional. It is not merely asana. It works at the physical level, mental level, emotional level, intellectual level, with the total understanding of the whole creation. That's called the Sanatana Dharma, the ancient science. So, yoga, with its holistic approach, can raise the person from the normal level to become great, super divine human being and reach the highest level of true consciousness, which we call as perfection. Perfection has no limits, it's infinite. So the state of infinite knowledge, power, freedom, and as I said. So the great sage Aurobindo said that yoga techniques are for total personality development. In dealing with a sports person, you should not only see that they have excellent performance capacities, but they should have total personality development. That is the one that contains physical, mental, emotional, spiritual development. And that is what Aurobindo said. For this to happen, from Vivekananda, the 4 streams of yoga were put forth. To deal with the spheres of sports performance, tactical, technical, physical, psychological. We use the holistic systems of yoga, Jnana Yoga, Raja Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Karma Yoga dimension. So at the physical level, what are those techniques that we use to improve the performance, to prevent injuries and others? That is at Annamaya Kosha we call physical level. We have got the Kriya, the cleansing technique. Then we have got yogic postures, not asana. Then we have yogic diet. We are going to hear about the diet performance later on, but yogic diet has its own component. Then at the Pranamaya Kosha, the Prana level, we deal with the breathing techniques, the special kriyas like Kapalabhati and others, and the Pranayama. Pranayama is to slow down the breathing and continuously go to the deeper and deeper levels of this. Then at the Manomaya Kosha, the mind level, ecological level, we have got focusing, the dharana, the deep focusing, the dhyana, the emotion culture, bring balance to the emotion. The feasibility of yoga, therefore, is multidimensional, multifaceted, highly structured activities that can improve the physical aspects of athletic performance. Performance can enhance tremendously by this approach. And how does it happen? By bringing balance, muscle endurance, muscular strength, muscle endurance, flexibility, and movement efficiency, coordination. This has been scientifically put there. We have the references there. The positive and varied impact on athletic performance also has been well researched on. Strength and flexibility, effects on metabolic, physiological and psychological aspects have also been deciphered. How do we look at the Yogasana? You can see there are 2 distinct schools of Yogasana. One is based on the Hatha Yoga school, which we call as the dynamic asanas, in which there is speed. You perform the asana more and more and faster, and then there is a jerk, there is the repetition, this follows that. Essentially, this dynamic set of asanas which you see most of the time also in yogasana competition, essentially it should shatter the tamas. That is the lowest aspect which has to be done. It also improves the strength of the entire physical groups of muscles. Then the second one is the dimensions related to the relaxation. The key essence of yoga is to relax. Relaxation by stretch and relax. What characterizes is slowness, maintenance of the asana more and more time. And this is the one that helps us to move from rajas to sattva, which is the highest level of the yogic postures. These are the 2 schools. So how do we do that? Initially you must see that the asana should become stable. It should be steady and blissful. We said Thira, Thira, Sukha. How to do that? Prayatna Saitya Ananta Samapatibhyam. You must relax the effort of performing the asana. In the whole process of doing asana, every group of others should relax. And the joints should loosen themselves. And relaxation of effort, tuning to infinity. Then tune your mind to infinity. All pervasive cave, the sky or an ocean. These are the dimensions that are involved in asana. Just because you learn a particular posture, standing, sitting or prone, it doesn't mean you have learned the asana. You have to see that you stay longer and longer and relax every group of muscles and also tune your mind to the environment. So, by so doing, the perfection in asana brings strength and agility. And as it said, Mr. Bhavan's whole body was an ideal body that has been described in various texts. Hard like a diamond when it is needed, and soft like a flower when it is not in use. Therefore, you do not spend excessive energy when you are in resting. That is the dimension that comes. And that is the thing that Krishna used in his best wrestling. Then The role of mind is very important in developing the physical stamina building. Yoga, the mind, and the control over the mind is important. Use body for mastery over the mind. How to get mastery? The process is stimulate and relax. Stimulate, relax. So yoga increases aerobic capacity. Significantly higher heart rate, maximum double max per kg. Come out, VO2 maximum per kg per minute and MET max all can instantly increase. Significantly lower body weight, BMI, BP rest, ME and VO2 maximum have all been well researched on. They have a nice reference given in this thing by Bhavan. Though yogic intervention involves low intensity practices like asana done slowly in a relaxed way. Practices within lactate threshold, physical performance improvement is possible due to both better economy and breathing by vessel metabolism and also by improvement in cardiovascular result. These are things again have been researched on. Other factors such as psychophysiological and better relaxation may contribute to it have been put forth. That's how we have the development of aerobic capacity. Yoga for improving sports performance is brought about by increased flexibility and agility on side, enhanced strength, steadiness and control, and improved cardiovascular performance and well-being, reduced preserve stress and injury prevention, as well as increased body awareness. All these things have been researched on and we have the references that are available for us in this direction. Then, yoga also helps in meeting the physical demand in sports. It increases the body flexibility, muscular efficiency, muscular strength, cardiorespiratory endurance, and reaction time. Flexibility of the spine and the hamstring muscles are also brought about by yoga practices. Then we have the endurance of abdominal muscle, trunk strength, flexibility, all are brought out by yoga dimension. Also, we have been seen that the flexibility of the spine are also improved. Then we have improved deadlift strength, substantially increased lower back hamstring flexibility, shoulder flexibility moderately decreased body fat, rigidity and flexibility level are improved, improves absolute and relative maximal ocular uptake, and upper body muscular endurance and increased trunk flexibility also have been brought. Is something that we have found in the research dimension. Then it also improves respiratory pressure, maximum expiratory pressure, MEP, maximum inspiratory pressure, MIP, forced expiratory volume, FEV, forced expiratory volume in first second, FEV1, and peak expiratory flow rate, PFR. All are improved continuously by using the yoga practices, particularly pranayama dimension brings about these changes. Then we have very significant improvements in respiratory muscle strength and endurance. This is also very, very important in sports performance development. We go to maximum, both gender, RPR, MAP, cardiovascular endurance, all improve significantly as shown. So that is the dimension that has been talked about to improve the performance. Then, what about the diet? We are going to have presentation according to the modern things, how it should be nutritious, balanced, moderate, calorie-based. In yoga dimension, we bring it from the guna-based, sattvic, dosha-based dimension, depending on the particular dosha they have, how to correct them. And it all should be based on professional need. And in naturopathy, we also bring in fasting as a part of the yoga dimension. So, that's all of the essentially Annamaya Kosha at the physical body level. Then at the Pranamaya Kosha level, we see that we bring the cleansing technique, the fast breathing essentially, and Kapalabhati, alternate Kapalabhati, finger nostril Kapalabhati, various Kapalabhati dimensions, which essentially is fast breathing and bursts of exhalation followed by inhalation. Is the feature of cleansing, which cleanses the entire system. Then we have the normalizing, and sectional breathing. You see that all the three lobes function fully. Often we see that it's only the middle lobe that's operating, the upper lobe and the lower lobe are inoperative. So sectional breathing helps to bring all the three lobes to active performance. And then pranayama. Many people have wrong notion that pranayama is fast breathing, more oxygen is in another. But pranayama is to slow down. Tasmin sati pranayama pranayama. Prithvicheda pranayama has been mentioned. Therefore, slowing down, slower alignment. That's the key essence of pranayama that we are seeing. Then we come to Manomaya Kosha, meditation and sports. So mental training into sports at all levels can not only enhance competitive performance and outcomes, but also gives a greater sense of deep connection and satisfaction. So, personally, we have seen there are two dimensions to the mastery of the mind. One is through concentration. In concentration, you speed up the thoughts. Faster mind, quicker mind, brilliant mind, faster. Number of thoughts per second, per minute should go on increasing. 10 thoughts per minute, 100 thoughts per minute, 500 thoughts per minute, 1000 thoughts per minute, speeding up. But the second dimension is to calm down the mind, silence the mind. 50 thoughts per minute, 10 thoughts per minute, 1 thought per minute, 1 thought for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, half an hour, single thought. Tatra pratyaya ekatanata dhyanam. That's how the dimension of the mastery has been put. So calming down of the mind is the key essence which has to be brought forth. In our entire education system, unfortunately, we have only the first and not the second. We have to see that we emphasize on the second. It's very important to the fourth dimension. So for dhyana or meditation has the 5 dimensions. One, the mind has a single thought and there is slowness. Number of thoughts per minute goes on reducing. And when you slow down, invariably you go to sleep. No sleep, sir. It should be wakefulness. And it is effortlessness. And finally the feeling of expansiveness. When these 5 aspects are available, then we call it a meditation. So meditation, all number of methods of meditations are available. One is more emphasized on the dharma or the focusing, another is the real dhyana dimension. So we have to bring this dimension. So this dimension of mental health also is very, very important, and you can see how the whole things are brought forth in the HPA axis and in the body level. These changes occur and brings about the necessary thing. And see that we have to deal with the depression gets reduced, then anxiety gets reduced, and the negative symptoms reduced, and the cognitive aspects start developing, memory, intellect and others, and sleep quality starts improving, and attention starts developing. This is the Manomaya Kosha level. And then at the emotional level, we bring samatvam yoga uchyate, equanimity. That's the key essence of yoga. Every way the balance should be brought. Unfortunately, we all have imbalances at the physical level, prana level, mind level, emotional level. And therefore, every organ and system is in an imbalance. That has to be corrected. So, yoga helps to bring this balance. Whether it's at the atomic level, or the left-right brain level, or organ level, this has to be brought. Balance. Harmony, and then maintain inner peace at all times. Calmness in action is the secret. Yogastaha kurukarmani sangam tyaktva dhandaya, that it is said. And even in the war field, Krishna Chaitanya had to maintain that inner poise and do all activities. This is the sense of karma yoga there. So yoga is a special skill in action in relaxation. That is done from the beauty sense and unattached action. Yoga karma sukha. Then can yoga help in sports injury prevention? Yes. In prevention and rehabilitation, we have conditioning, core strengthening, the balance training, postural correction, and the alignment. They all help in prevention. Strength, flexibility, and range of motion, chronic lower back pain, fatigue and pain. Then have been established TNF-alpha, IL-6, and ultras pro-inflammatory cytokine levels are also brought. It improves cardiorespiratory index. These are the ones that help in prevention and also rehabilitation. So safety of yoga. Yoga was not associated with a significant excess and intervention-related non-serious or serious adverse event when compared to the usual care of exercise. This thing. You see, many times people when they go to the gymnasiums and others, it can cause such horrible things that can happen without essentially intervention related. In yoga, it's very safe in the general thing. However, if yoga also is taken with excessive speed, then probably it can be. Therefore, these dimensions have to be established to bring safety of yoga dimension. Ultimately, it is this total picture that we have mentioned, that at the Annamaya Kosha level, in the physical body level, we have the Kriya, we have S-VYASA, we have got the muscles loosening practices and strengthening muscles through asana, through relaxation, IRT, QRT, DRT and relaxation, Shavasana things, and good diet. This is what the Annamaya Kosha. Then we have the Pranamaya Kosha, we have got the pranayama, then we have breathing practices, the succinctity and Kriyas. At the Manomaya Kosha, we have Dharana and Dhyana. And mastery over the emotions are brought forth in that by bringing balance. Then at the Vijnanamaya Kosha, we have the theory which supports this entire process, integrative approach and counseling. These are the ones that help. And at the Anandamaya Kosha, action in relaxation is the key effect. Bliss way of working together. How to work with a blissful awareness throughout the day. And therefore, the Happy Assembly and Philosophy are brought forth. Therefore, the recommendation that we have using this integrated approach is to build awareness programs on yoga for athletes and sports, number one. Number two, setting up integrated yoga facilities as an adjunct to modern approach of sport training. And three, conducting in-depth research more and more to bring in yoga dimension. Therefore, in conclusion, I will say the contributions of yoga will be to help improve flexibility, stability, endurance, aerobic and anaerobic capacity, then cardiovascular dimensions, fitness, and reducing the fatigue and competitive stress and anxiety. And implication, yoga relaxation in the body level, slowness of breath, calmness of mind, balance of emotions, which helps to improve the performance, prevent injuries, and deal with injuries effectively. This is the conclusion. These are the references that we quoted there, and I invite all of you to go through our research lab and also our training scheduled programs here in our Prashanti Kutirams and get the maximum out of it. Thank you very much. Dhanyawad.
Light on the philosophical concepts of yoga and how calming the mind, yoga is just not about calming the mind or keeping the body fit. It can be useful in especially the human performance to highest levels without having any sort of injuries. And this is very much needed for the sports persons today, because today we see in the sports arena the competition is so fierce that in few milliseconds they get the gold medal or they lose the gold medal in few milliseconds. So this to say the amount of perfection, amount of endurance, amount of agility, amount of strength, amount of composure needed in such events is tremendous. And that can only happen if they take to practice of yoga in their daily life. So thank you, Guruji, for showing light on the research evidence for using yoga in various sports faculties as well as in prevention of injuries. And I would like to give it to my friend.
Present morning, wonderfully put. In fact, it is scripted so nicely, and a huge topic of yoga which has been covered just in about 20-25 minutes. The impact is what we are looking at, and sports is actually a multi-billion-dollar industry. The amount of people, it has improved in the last nearly, at least in India, the last decade and a half. Things have let bounce. And so much of things is happening. It is high time we from India at least realize these potentials, especially with Guruji, people like Guruji who are strong exponents and proponents of yoga and who have done in-depth study for not one, not two, decades together. and to prove the effectiveness, to prove the beneficial. And ultimately, when we talk of optimization, we talk of optimization in order to have better performance, better recovery, better rehabilitation, and prevent as far as possible sports injuries. It is so common. I mean, the number of sports events which happen throughout the country and throughout the world, many of these participants practically switch from one continent to one other continent, one country to another country. That is the kind of exposure and that is the kind of competition what many of these athletes, many of these sports do. And it is high time we realize that how well we can protect, how well we can complement. More important is complementing. That is one thing which we really have to think, and how well we can prepare our athletes to face the future. Because future is going to be more competitive, and definitely it is going to be not the end, it is probably the beginning, and you are definitely going to see much better performances in the future. So with this, I would request if the audience has got any questions or any suggestions or anything, please, anybody in the audience would like to take some clarification? Or you can write it and pass it on to us so that if not now, we can take it up much later. Once the entire process finishes, probably once for all, we can have it at the end of the session.
We have the volunteers of the scientific committee in and around the hall. If you have any questions, you can write and give it to them, and we will pass it on to the chairpersons and speakers.
Thank you, Guruji, for a wonderful presentation. Thank you very much.
We have the honor of having Dr. Mark King, Professor of Sports Biomechanics, School of Sport, Exercise and Health Sciences, Bhavan University, UK. I request the technical team to play the audio visual. He'll be talking about the topic investigating sports performance and injury prevention from a biomechanics perspective.
Investigating optimal performance and minimizing. Dr. Mark King is a professor of sports biomechanics in the School of Sport, Exercise and Health Sciences, Loughborough University, investigating optimal performance and minimizing injury risks across a broad range of sports including gymnastics, cricket, athletics, badminton, swimming and tennis. In cricket, Mark has collaborated with the England and Wales Cricket Board for nearly 20 years, covering a broad range of cricket areas from power hitting in batting and optimal performance in spin bowling through to optimal pitch length for junior cricketers and optimizing fast bowling performance, minimizing injury risks. Mark has a breadth of experience with international groups, chair of the International Society of Biomechanics, technical group on computer simulation for 8 years, fellow and director of the International Society of Biomechanics in Sports, director of Badminton England, and invited member of Badminton World Federation's Injury Prevention Working Group and International Cricket Council's Bowling Group.
I welcome Professor Dr. Mark King.
Thank you very much, and it's a pleasure to be here, and thank you for the organisers inviting me. Your hospitality is tremendous, and thank you very much, appreciate it. So I'm Professor of Sports Biomechanics at Loughborough University, and my passion is optimal sport performance. I'm going to start with a video of Jonathan Edwards doing the triple jump. So he's jumping over 18 metres here in the triple jump. But he only did this 2 or 3 times in his whole career. And as a biomechanist, I want to understand why. And also, why couldn't I do this? And then here's a different triple jumper producing a similar distance, but in quite a different way. And so as a biomechanist, I'm trying to understand what's happening here in these elite performances. We then turn to cricket. So there's only a small handful of bowlers that have bowled over 160 kilometres an hour. But every fast bowler who bowls would like to bowl faster. And as a biomechanist, I want to again understand this. Or if we look at baseball pitching, throwing slightly faster but with no run-up. Or tennis serve, here serving over 260 kilometres an hour. But interestingly, if you look at the top 10 players in the world, none of them can serve this fast. And then my own sport of badminton, which I still manage to play relatively competitively, although my smash is nowhere near this. Although I wish I could smash that fast. Again, as a biomechanist, I want to understand why. Why is it that we can see that humans can achieve these really high levels of elite performance, but there's not so many examples of them? So I'm a sports biomechanist, and I use mathematics. I try and use mathematics to explain and understand what happens in sport performance. And what I'm looking for is factors that are linked either to sport performance or to injury reduction. And it's understanding that relationship between technique and performance and technique and injuries that I'm going to talk about. And what's my philosophy on this? Well, in all elite performances, although everybody's very different, there are some things that are all the same. And so there are some factors that are critical to elite performance. And there's lots of other stuff that's down to the individual, be it from a coaching perspective or an individuality perspective. But as a biomechanist, what I'm looking for is those key components that are important for elite performance. The action was delayed, the bowling arm was later, the generation of force was over a longer period of time. So this is good. Well, something has to be bigger, and what was it? It was the overall amount of braking force. So the bowlers that bowled effectively produced a large amount of braking force which slowed their body down, their mass centre down, allowed the ball to be propelled very quickly. Well, I've talked about performance, but what about stress fractures? Stress fractures are the worst possible injury for us fast bowlers. If they get a lumbar stress fracture, they can't play for 12 months. And for many bowlers, that's the end of their bowling career. But if we think about stress fractures, there are a number of factors that contribute. From nutrition, and we're going to hear about diet shortly, through to bone properties, muscle properties, bowling volume, and technique. Well, technique is the one that's linked to biomechanics, and that's the one I'm going to talk briefly about. So, if we look at this picture, I've taken this picture of 2 bowlers at back-foot contact. If you'd asked me this question 10 years ago, which of these bowlers is more likely to get a stress fracture, I wouldn't know. But from the research that we've now done, one of these bowlers is 40 or 50 times more likely to get a stress fracture in his lower back, because we've done the research. So, think about it yourself. If you know fast bowling, which bowler do you think here is more likely to get a stress fracture? The one on the left or the one on the right? Which one? The one on the left. Well, it is the one on the left. But why? Why is it the one on the left? Well, it's not quite come out of this graph, but it's to do with the hip angle at the back. You can see the bowler on the left is collapsed more. His hip angle is much bigger, and that puts more strain on his lower back compared to the bowler on the right, which is in a more elongated position. So I understand specifically the link between this technique factor and injuries. But why is it that lots of bowlers look like the one on the left? That's the ongoing work we're doing now, and to say, how can we use this information in coach education to help fast bowling coaches encourage bowlers to bowl more like the one on the right, and therefore be much less likely to get this horrible injury. So where does this all come together? As a biomechanist, from both a performance and injury perspective, I've started to understand what matters. We now produce reports on bowlers that takes all of that information in a way that the coach can use it. So we benchmark and profile. And then I very fortunate to work with some high-level coaches to get this information out there to the community. So I'll hopefully help future bowlers to improve their performance and reduce injuries. So that's my first example, showing you practically around fast bowling how we've worked from an injury and performance perspective. But I'm now going to look at something completely different, gymnastics tumbling. And this is part of my PhD work from a long time ago. So here's a gymnast performing a double layout somersault. They're doing 2 somersaults in a straight or layout position. Well, as a biomechanist, I always start with a question. And the question here, instead of doing 2 somersaults, would it be possible to produce 3 somersaults? Would that be physically possible? And nobody in the world, when I did this work, was doing this at all. Is it just that their technique's not good enough? Do we need to change their technique to produce a triple layout? Are they not strong enough? If we got them a lot stronger, would that help? Or is it something else, perhaps their approach? Well, this sort of question couldn't really be answered experimentally, because if I took an elite athlete and messed around with their technique, strength or approach, they might get injured. And so I used a theoretical computer-based method. So I basically built a computer game or a computer model of this movement. So here's the computer model. It's got a few rigid segments, so 5 segments representing what's in the human body, so making it very simplified. I've got the strength of the athlete incorporated in something that's called a torque generator, because muscles produce force, and with a moment on that generates a torque. And they don't tumble on concrete or a hard floor, they tumble on a tumbling track, so I incorporate that as well. And so I have a model that's a mathematical computer representation. I make the model specific to the individual, and I won't go into the details of that here, but I now represent the athlete that you've just seen, so the model is specific to them. And before I use the model, I need to check, is it any good? I've built this computer model, and that took 2.5 years to do, so it's not a quick process. But I've got the performance to the top of the simulation at the bottom. And if I run them through, you can see the completely mathematical visualization at the bottom is doing the same as what the person can do at the top. So I've shown that the model works. This was towards the end of my PhD. It took 3 years to get to this point, but all is good. So I can now ask questions. I don't need the real person anymore. I can just use that model and say, what would happen if? Could you do any better? Well, the first optimization was to say, is his technique just not very good? He's an elite gymnast, he was top 10 in the UK at the time. But if I just changed his technique, could he do any better? So I asked the computer, the AI if you like, can you do any better? So instead of 2 somersaults. So my third example, racket sports, the sport I love to play, and the badminton smash. Or am I going to choose an experimental or theoretical analysis? I've shown you an example of each. Well, I'd love to be able to do a theoretical analysis in badminton smash, but it's quite complex and haven't got to do that yet. So I'm going to show you some work from an experimental perspective. So this takes the same technology you saw in the first example of fast bowling. This is at Badminton England in Milton Keynes. And again, I've set up all the cameras. And this this badminton player was one of the top players in the UK, and we collected data on a whole range of athletes. So I've shown you 2 examples of the smash there. So the sort of questions I ask here is, well, these are already playing at the very highest levels of the game, so the top 20, top 30 in the world. Are their smashes perfect? How close to optimal are their techniques? One of those I showed you was a singles player, one was a doubles player. Could they smash any faster? If they could smash 5% quicker, would they win 5% more games? Question mark. If you were their coach, would you try and improve their performance? And then, why can't I smash anything like as good as them? Very frustrating. So, this study started off without any funding, and this is actually my dining hall at Loughborough University. I'm a warden of all the residents, so one of the weekends I pulled all the chairs and tables out and set up an instrumented hall. And one of the first people we got listened data on was my son when he was 10. So here's my youngest. So we have from the very young, he's a bit older now, he can beat me now, which is very annoying. Through to this player, this was at the All England Championships in Birmingham. He was ranked in the top 3 in the world. And then we also got males and females. Again, one of the top female athletes in England. And then we also went to the World Champs in Glasgow. So we collected a large data set on the smash. Well, we used the same technology, so what did we see? We see the reflective markers. 3D dot to dot with my students. And because we know where to put all those markers, we can drop the skeleton. So what do we find out? Well, we start off by just looking where the shuttle is hit on the racket. And this is the fastest, it's very small, but essentially these are for every participant, that's their fastest smash, and that's their top 5% and the top 10%. And what you can see there is, they're not actually hitting out of the middle of the racket, even though you might think intuitively they would. And this is because of the pronation of the forearm. They actually hit slightly off centre. And we had a subsequent project looking at racket design based on that. So you can see that the hot spot of the racket isn't quite in the middle. And then in terms of direction, we can also do the same, and we can understand the direction and angle of the smash. But if we look at speed and generation speed, if we're going to hit the shuttle very fast, we need the racket to accelerate very quickly. And so these two graphs here show the whole cohort. On the left, all the data, but then on the right, the quickest and lowest in the study. And this is from the start of the swing through to impact on the right. And so if you look at the right-hand graph, you can see the solid line is the quickest, and the dotted line is the slowest. And interestingly, what we see for the faster players is they start the swing much later. So you can see about 90% of the way through the movement. Whereas the slower players, more like me, swing earlier, maybe about 75% of the time duration. That's where they start their acceleration. But they get nowhere near as quick in terms of the peak at impact. So we understand what's happening. Well, where does that speed come from? Well, if you remember in cricket, the speed came from the core, and it's no different in the badminton smash. So that's quite quick, but if we split that out and look at that generation of speed from left to right, you can see the red colour starts in the middle, that's where the energy is generated, and it flows through the arm into hitting the shuttle. So the trunk is really important. And then this has been shown in a few sports, and they call it the X factor, as came from golf originally, but essentially axial rotation of the trunk, but also flexion of the trunk. And if then we focus on the shoulder, if we've got more internal rotation, we can hit faster. So again, this same data for all the study on the left, showing the range of what we've got, and then the solid line is the quicker player. And you can see far greater range of shoulder internal rotation by the point of hitting the shuttle. This twist factor, the X factor, again the same thing. We have more counter rotation, more rotation of the trunk, linked to performance. So you're now experts. If I've educated you well, you should be able to tell me which of these two players in this. So this is in a study, the quickest and slowest. Which one's quicker? Which one's slower? Is it A or B? Have a guess. You actually think this is quite hard. It's not very easy to pick. It happens very quickly. And even though there's quite a difference in their performance, player A here is the quickest. And if you look at the second from last picture in each sequence, you can see his rapid is much lower. The one in the sequence at the bottom started moving in his swing. If you remember that picture I showed a minute ago. So he's initiated his swing earlier, trying to generate speed, whereas the one at the top has left it later and later and later, and then had a very rapid acceleration to produce the speed. So if you got the answer A, the top one, give yourself a pat on the back. Okay, so where are we in this journey here? I have a good understanding now of where performance comes from in the smash. I can benchmark and profile in a similar way to the fast bowling. And again, I'm working with high-level coaches to implement this and get that message out there. So, I hope in this presentation I've given you a flavour of what biomechanics can achieve. It's all about understanding, about movement from a performance and an injury perspective in 3 examples: cricket, tumbling, and the badminton smash. Of course, I need to acknowledge the people that supported me and helped me in my journey to where I am today, and thank you.
Anybody has got any questions? Please pass on the mic, please.
Very interesting presentation. I've never seen anything like that, biomechanics. So I have a question for you that is relevant to yoga, and wondering if you have the ability to do any sort of measurements in your assessments that would include changes in flexibility.
So certainly ranges of motion is an important aspect, and you saw that in some of the examples where you had greater axial rotation. Biomechanics is looking at what can you achieve at the top, but it understands the factors that are important to achieve that. The next level beyond what we're doing now is based on that knowledge. How can you change an athlete? Can you help an athlete? So if an athlete has got restricted range of motion, for example, would using yoga or other activities help improve that? So there's ongoing work. I think we're at the level where we now understand what's important. I've got a study in Malaysia at the moment looking at, if you took a 10-week strength and conditioning program, how much better can you improve some of these attributes linked to performance. But one of my colleagues also loved the looks at ranges of motion and how does that link to performance. So absolutely it's an important area.
Anybody else?
Thank you, Dr. Mark, and I'm Vijay Sani from Department of Sports Science from JSS Hospital, Mysore. And it was really a wonderful session, and it's one of the area of my interest of biomechanics. And one question which I would like to have is, we have asymmetries, and especially it may be a bony asymmetry or a muscular asymmetry in those, especially the athletes. And in the cases we are seeing asymmetries are helping them to perform better. Same time, we see it is more prone for injuries. So how could I can get from a biomechanist of assessing these asymmetries, and how could this help to understand the prevention of injuries? So,
strength and conditioning coaches, they don't want any asymmetries, they want everybody to be completely symmetrical. You only have to look at my 2 forearms from playing a racket sport, and one's almost twice as big, and my hands are even different size. And you look at, and one of the probably the most studied sports is baseball pitching. and you look at the ranges of motion in their shoulder internal, their throwing arm is actually, it modifies over time. So it clearly has a performance element to it, but the stresses and loads on the body and the links to ranges of motion then has been changed over time. So in answering your question, I think the body has modified itself to help improve performance, and therefore there's this managing of injury risk, because performance always comes first. So if I look at the cricket fast bowlers who get stress fractures, if I change their technique so that they wouldn't get a stress fracture completely, they may never be any good at the sport. So there's a compromise between these two. And the reality becomes performance comes first. And if you've got injury risk factors there, so maybe asymmetries, you have to then modify other modifiable factors like workload and strength and conditioning programs to mitigate that. But you always have to have the performance. If you lose the performance, you know it. I hope that answers your question. Thank you.
Is there anybody else?
I'm in glasses, I have a question.
Last question.
Sir, you explained about the body, and in that one stress fracture was there, about the stress fracture. And you explained that there was a person who is making more angle, is more prone to stress fracture. Right?
Yes.
But sir, I have a question. When the person is landing, like on the stress pad, the person who is having a straight leg, that is still an swimmer on the straight, and it is directly impacting his fall chambers. So then, how come we can say the person who is flexing, that he's losing his energy somewhere, who is flexing?
Yeah.
But the person who is having a straight line, he should be more prone to the injury, right? Because when he is having the horizontal velocity turning into the circular velocity, then how come that person who is having dig in his joints is more prone?
So it's a very interesting question, and you're right in your analogy. So the quicker bowlers keep their legs straight. The ones who collapse and lose energy don't perform. And so this becomes a performance gain, and this is important. Now, the injury mechanism is quite complex here. And so even though I talked about ground reaction force here, actually the load at the ground doesn't get to the lower back. So I've got an ongoing piece of work at the moment which shows that only about 20% of the load at the ground, even with a straight leg, gets to the back. So actually this, I think, is a bit of what I'd say is a red herring, if that makes any sense. It doesn't actually contribute to the injuries. The injuries that come in the spine are much more likely, we now know, to come from muscular force rather than a load from the ground. So although this load from the ground appears worrying with a straight leg, actually from an injury perspective it's not such an important issue, we don't think.
Okay.
I hope that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I've got a question written here. So in fast bowling, did you study speed of... So yes, we did, and the speed of the arm is very much linked to the speed of the ball. And then fatigue studies in sports. So this is a very interesting area. So what I've showed you is what people can achieve, their maximum. If you look during a tennis match or over a series of a whole day of a test match, then players do fatigue. And the work is ongoing to understand, is there a greater injury risk as someone gets fatigued? Question mark. But there's more to be done than that. And the role of flexibility of muscles, I think we've spoken about that. So looseness of joints, that's a hard one. And I'm probably going to have a conversation about that afterward. And maybe relaxation. So this is all, I can see this is linked to yoga. And so this is around how do you get the best out of yourself. We've been very fortunate to study elite athletes who I think are very good at getting the best out of their bodies already. Whereas maybe the people who are less skilled are not so good. And that's simple answer.
That was excellent, Mark. I'm Dr. Manoj Kumar. I'm an orthopedic surgeon. The question is that in the videos that you showed, you were analyzing that what enhances the performance. You were examining the best performers. Have you examined the ones who injured themselves so that we get to know and tell our athletes what not to do?
Yes, so I showed you one brief example around that hip angle in the back. That was from an injury perspective. So the fast bowlers that got injured got into a shape in their back. So yes, we have. We haven't done this across all sports, but in cricket, fast bowling for that lumbar stress injury, yes we have. And so we're starting to understand from a technique perspective what links to injury. The challenge with injuries is they're very multifactorial. And I tried to talk on there, I didn't spend long on it, but there's lots of factors that link to injury. So you can have the best technique in the world, but play too much, and then still get injured. And so you have to understand that. And so in England we have a model, a matrix of factors which takes into account their genetics, so their strength of their bone, their S&C program, their nutrition, as well as their technique, to try and say for an individual, how much can they play? So it becomes more individualized.
Thank you, Dr. Mark, for this very great lecture. These are very important. And if you have the right technique, and if you have the science behind the technique, you can really improve the performance of individuals. And just to add on the think of yoga for this particular talk, I had an encounter with one of these sports physiotherapists, Dr. John Back from US. He works with muscular dystrophy children. And he was also a coach to one of the greatest swimmers in the US, Michael Phelps. All of you know that he holds the world record for the largest number of gold medals in freestyle swimming. Okay? And he gets the gold medal by a fraction of milliseconds. All these swimmers in the US, all elite swimmers, they all compete each other, and one day somebody gets first place, and second day somebody else gets the first place. But on that particular day, Michael Phelps was very much consistent and was getting the gold medals. And the secret was simple thing. He could stay under the water for a longer time. Because if you come out of the water, there is drag, there is friction, it will slow you down. And the reason what he was doing was, before going into swimming or diving into the pool, he used to do what is called loss of pharyngeal breathing, swallowing mouthfuls of air, okay, and increasing the vital capacity of the lungs and vital volume of the lungs. And then he should do this swimming. And this same technique is used in muscular dystrophy children, muscular dystrophy who have respiratory muscle paralysis, to improve the air amount inside the lungs, so that they don't have this effort, they don't require much of effort for breathing when they are next to you, basically. Okay? So this loss of breathing is nothing but Lavani Pranayama. Okay? So this is what is there in yoga. We really don't know that about these things, and it helps somebody to float in water and stay under water for a long time. Similarly, in archery, we have what is called gaze. We do Tanaka. Okay? Gaze fixation is very, very important. You must have seen, when you look at your monitors, or on your Google network, on your internet, you get ads at different places, right? The ads which are on different places on your monitor is based on the gaze of your eyes. So your monitor which is there, the TV which is there, the monitor which is there in front of you, visual display which is there in front of you, has a small camera which monitors your gaze. And silently the people in Google, they know where your gaze is, and they place advertisement in the same place where the gaze is there. And this gaze fixation is aberrant when you have stress. You will not be able to fix the gaze. Now you can correct that particular gaze by training the eyes for fixing the gaze. And this can be very useful in archery competitions or shooting competitions. So a lot of things, technology is now advancing, a lot of things are now coming up, artificial intelligence is coming up, new sensors are coming up which can measure the pressure, measure the stress on your joints, measure the torque on your joints, okay, measure the muscle strength. A lot of things can happen, a lot of things are happening in kinesiology and biomechanics, and experts like Dr. Mark are really making a difference in these sports today. And thank you, Dr. Mark.
For the final session, fuel is important. Without fuel, there is no performance. And definitely for an optimal performance, it's the right kind of fuel which is important. Now, we have Ms. Geeta Daniela, who will be talking on advances in sports nutrition and dietary strategies. I I now invite the speaker. Before that, can I have a video of thank you.
Ms. Geetha Kaliyavar is a highly experienced sports nutritionist and high-performance dietitian based in Bangalore, India, with nearly 21 years of expertise. Holding a PG diploma from the International Olympic Committee, UK, she is a registered dietitian, diabetes educator, and IBS expert. Geetha is dedicated to optimizing athletic performance through advanced dietary practices. A member of University Board of Studies, guest lecturer and adjunct faculty, she represented India at the WE Sports Nutrition Conference in 2020. Geetha serves as an advisor to FSSAI Delhi on the use of supplements for sports persons. A university first rank holder, she has received awards and gold medals for academic excellence. Geetha mentors elite Indian athletes at various levels, including those in Asian Championships, Commonwealth, Olympics, Paralympics, and Ironman events.
In football. So based on what his needs are, I think our objectives have to be tailored to his need in order to support him and also to prevent injury and illnesses, because if there is exercise-induced inflammation which is not addressed through food predominantly, there is going to be a risk of frequent infection. So we talk of energy all the time, which is nothing but like a currency or ATP for the body. Where do you get it? So obviously the food becomes the crucial aspect of, as Sir said, the fueling, right, before, during and after. So gone are the days, I don't know how many nutritionists we have in the participants. In our days when I studied over 20 years ago, we only were taught about recommended dietary allowance by the National Institute of Nutrition from the ICMR, and we no longer follow that. At least I have studied a postgraduate diploma from the International Olympic Committee, so we go by our guidelines. And interestingly, we don't calculate macros just for the whole body mass or body weight anymore. So we arrive at a lean body mass, and then the calorie intake itself, very complicated from theory to practice, trust me. So when we say that less than 30 kilocalories per fat-free mass, which is kg, which is body weight minus the fat percent, you arrive at the lean body mass. And that is how we calculate the total caloric intake. And it is of course understandable if we have adolescent or younger athletes. We need to offer more for supporting growth also. Protein, very interesting topic again. We could talk an hour only on that. So based on your need, in India, at least it's a big challenge, particularly in vegetarian athletes. So we want to look at over 1 gram at least for an athlete. But today, when you believe of kidney disease, you have several other complications or all misconceptions, and it's not factual. So many athletes may have higher needs based on their training load and also their season, and you can touch over 2 grams of protein per kg body weight too. And I think in the fats, I'd like to touch upon mostly healthy fats as cold pressed mustard oil, coconut oil, and of course 7% of the calorie intake can come from good fats as coconut oil, cold pressed or ghee. Most importantly, omega-3s come into the fore, and we'll discuss about how it is important for athletes. So carbohydrate is king because it fuels athletic performance. Without carbohydrates, an athlete will not be able to perform. And we've had a lot of studies done by our director of Olympics, which is Louis Bode from Australian Institute of Sport. Low carbohydrate diet, high fat diet, do they help athletes? And the conclusive data is no. So carbohydrates are needed if you're looking to improve performance in peak season. In a high intensity workout, the source of the fuel is carbohydrate. Unlike a car that can run in diesel, you can't fill it with petrol, as simple as that. So if you are in the peak season, athletes or anybody else looking for fitness, or you want to bulk up, you want to increase more muscle mass, you have to eat a little more, and carbohydrates give a lot of calories. So at a higher intensity, carbohydrates are burnt, and less than 60%, 40 to 60% fats can also simultaneously help in exercise. And that is example is endurance or marathon running. So in India, we know the millets are very popular. Ministry of Agriculture, I think, has been propagating millets. And I see a lot of younger nutritionists and dietitians who come to say, they say, yes, you must eat millets. But who is millets for? It's wonderful. Somebody with thyroid, it's not advisable. But at the same time, with athletes, millets have more fiber in them, take longer to digest. So it really depends why one needs to eat a type of carbohydrate with more fiber. So there are different types. We call it glycemic index, how fast it can absorb, and glycemic load, how much you eat for it to help you get the energy faster. So there are some basic aspects to understand carbohydrates. And of course, for an athlete, bread is excellent. White rice is excellent. So a lot of myths around we shouldn't eat white bread, we shouldn't eat white rice, you eat only whole grains. So that's not true. So whole grains are more useful, and we'll learn about it in just in the next slide, please. So a lot of athletes I know eat only brown rice and millets, believing that they're the best source. Yes, they are, more fiber, more nutrients, but they're slow to digestion, especially if you have to go into an athletic training very fast. And besides, carbohydrates also have, other than the fuel economy, because fats may burn in lower oxygen availability, but what happens is when you are doing high intensity carbohydrates are used, but the fuel conversion eventually is based on more oxygen, so which means it's not very fruitful for somebody who is, in high intensity workout. So then there is obviously a lot more function of carbohydrates, even for the muscle to contract, for the calcium ions to help in muscle contraction, and so on. Because and if you are going to be doing endurance workout more than on, you have to have adequate carbohydrate replenished after 45 minutes, otherwise you're going to face fatigue. So why and when will somebody eat a slow digesting carbohydrate? So if you're looking to lower your body weight, which I think many athletes will do or aim for off-season, and if you're looking for training adaptation, for example, you may have had a higher intensity training, but you will deliberately knock off carbohydrate from your recovery meal because you would like to bring down your fat percentage or lower your body weight. So in those situations, you may want to eat slow digesting carbohydrates, or sometimes even skip carbohydrate intake. So the next question brings us to when will one eat carbohydrates as white rice or potatoes, white bread? When will these kind of carbohydrates, which are easy to digest, helpful for an athlete? Because they take less time to digest, they give you very good energy, especially even between workout. I know badminton players who, Professor Mark also plays badminton. I know badminton athletes who show up at 5 in the morning, then they have a midday session on court, and then they have one-on-one sessions. So which means that, and I know several athletes who are not educated enough to understand that you can't survive the entire day training only with, consuming plain water or not having anything in between, because you will cramp and you are going to be so fatigued that you cannot train next day. So you need to eat in between workout, and that's called intra-workout. So your fruits, banana, and so on can be wonderful to get a quick replenishment. And to eat immediately, particularly
one day prior, and start carb loading before. Coming to proteins, exercise is a stimulus, and consuming enough protein and even carbohydrates actually can prevent muscle breakdown, because carbohydrates, though only help insulin and glycogen recovery, but they prevent breakdown of the muscle too. So the quality, quantity, and the time of proteins is very important, and you will learn that in just a moment. Gone are the days where in India, some of us who really make an effort to consume carbohydrate. Just to give you an example, if you ate 2 or 3 eggs, you will get roughly about 18-20 grams of carbohydrate. Whereas to eat the same amount of carbohydrate, if you're a vegetarian, you will have to eat a large bowl of green moong, chole, chana, lobia, because you will have to eat close to more than quarter kg, which is 300 grams, and not to mention that's very high fiber. So you can meet the requirement, but however, you have to remember you need to consume a lot more. So the guidelines today is that you need to consume about roughly 30, even 40. I mean, a lot of Western data on that. Trust me, as an Indian dietitian, if you're dealing with a vegetarian, it's just nearly impossible to plan diets as that. But on an average, about 20 odd grams of protein. But more importantly, to consume that protein across 3 to 4 meals is advisable. And of course, with carbohydrate, and then that is what is most important for muscle protein synthesis after exercise. So coming to the most crucial or latest suggestions, leucine. It's one of the essential amino acids, and those of you who are studying proteins will understand what this is. So it's an elixir, and we know that it is the leucine today, we know leucine threshold or the leucine trigger that enhances muscle protein synthesis. And you find them mostly higher in foods that come from animal source. So milk, of course, for vegetarians is good if you consume milk, and God forbid if you're vegan. With due respect, we are only there to facilitate every client and athlete. We only show them the way and guidance. If we have a vegan athlete, we'll teach them how to match their protein intake through tofu and so on. So, but you need to, yes, plan the meals with the support of a qualified sports dietitian. And for vegetarians, leucine is also found in corn. So in Indians, because the cereals or grains lack lysine, methionine is not available in pulses. A mixed diet like idli, dosa, pongal, khichdi, rajma, and rice. So a combination of these, or when you combine the grain and pulses, can give you higher quality protein, and you can still meet the need of the recommendation if you eat larger portions. Of course, for those, the very popular topic again, protein supplements, the most recommended form of supplement is definitely whey, because whey isolate, by default a scoop can offer you 2.5 grams of leucine, and that is what is very important and lacks in the vegetarian form of supplements, be it pea protein or soya. Soya has slightly higher methionine, lower methionine. So pulses lack methionine, as I just told you. And of course, isolate is also good for people with lactose intolerance because it's lactose free. So as I told you, if you're a vegetarian or vegan, you could look at blends of mixed protein to increase its amino acid. I mentioned already a lot of work being done on the importance of omega-3 for increasing or maintaining muscle mass. And in some of the athletes where there has been injury management, up to 5 gram, which is actually a lot, because typically we give anywhere roughly about 1,000 mg of omega-3 every day for athletes. So based on the need, if you have a master athlete and their liver enzymes or cholesterol is higher, we do touch 2 to 3 grams. But yes, a lot of studies have been done up to 5 grams of fish oil, which is omega-3, and mind you, it's marine fish, the mackerel, sardines, herring, trout, and the ones that contain the omega-3, just to let you know. So omega-3 can help manage injury too. And for the vegetarians, I haven't forgotten anybody here, the alpha-linolenic acid, which is found in walnuts and kelp and seaweed and flaxseed. Flaxseed also have an anti-nutritional property called cyanide, so you need to mildly roast it preferably and always powder it fresh to get the maximum ALA. But ALA conversion is very complicated and poor, so you will need to consume larger portions of vegetarian form to get more amount of omega-3, which is the vegetarian form. And of course, to reduce the oxidative stress or exercise-induced inflammation, the best approach is food. Eat a lot of dark-colored fruits, vegetables, and antioxidants, which is typically found in our turmeric. And of course, turmeric, also remember, curcumin is the pigment of turmeric. So please don't assume that if you eat 10 grams, which is more than 2 heaped teaspoons of turmeric, just to let you know. Everything in moderation is good. And during COVID, a lot of people went overboard and they were touching up 2,000 mg turmeric. So it's unnecessary. So everything in the given recommendation. So of course, consuming a lot of theaflavin and catechins is green tea, very potent. Dark pigments, which are fruits and vegetables, especially abundant, seasonal, and local, always better. Even we say the same thing. Is always good to lower exercise-induced inflammation. Delayed onset muscle soreness, a very, very daily aspect of athletes, and when they are sore, they find it very difficult to go back to training. So we have a lot of studies that have now come out to say that consuming certain fruits and vegetables, a lot of studies done on tart cherries. These are available in India, and it's a summer fruit. So tart cherries or tart cherry, actually the studies have been done on tart cherry juice, which can increase sleep because of melatonin, and also improve the recovery of from exercise because of lowering of delayed onset muscle soreness. And of course, pineapple, you already know, contains a digestive enzyme called bromelain. Papaya has papain. So not only improves digestion in healthy people, of course, and those who don't have digestive issues, but even the anthocyanins and the pigments found in pomegranate, and a lot of work done on nitrates are beetroot, and humble thing. So even beetroot, regular consumption of beetroot, and mind you, raw, not cooked, because cooking can lower the nitric oxide conversion ability. And of course, I'd like to talk of 1 or 2 micronutrients, which is magnesium. And interestingly, magnesium is highly overlooked. And I'm sorry that I had to trouble the organizing team, because I did work on the PPT again once in the morning, but sadly it's not updated here. And I think there was an issue with the drive. So I had added 1 or 2 more slides, but nonetheless, I think I definitely want to touch upon magnesium for athletes and its importance, because magnesium is not only important for the muscle relaxation, as is needed as sodium and calcium and so on, that helps muscle contraction and prevent cramping. Of course, that's a very complicated topic. Muscle cramps itself is got multifactorial, or it's quite intricate. But nonetheless, magnesium, a lot of people in India are vitamin D deficient. But you know, it's the magnesium that activates the vitamin D absorption, and that's highly overlooked. People don't, and even calcium. Calcium is irrelevant, a blood parameter, because there is calcitonin and there are parathormones, are actually very low. Sometimes hemoglobin is not going to reflect that, but the ferritin, the entire iron studies profile will give us an idea. And I think as a nutritionist, I think it's wonderful to learn that you all also study nutrition, and I think you should integrate this. So when you look at these parameters, and if the athlete is constantly fatigued, then you definitely want to look at this parameter, because when you exercise, there is a hormone called hepcidin that increases, and that lowers the absorption of iron. And consuming iron-rich foods is irrelevant, because it will not absorb. And carbohydrate consumption during intense workout actually lowers hepcidin. And when you consume iron-rich foods or iron supplement, it's best to take it after a gap of 3 to 4 hours, or you can consume it first thing in the morning too, either half hour before workout or immediately in the half hour when the absorption is better. Yes, so you want to target a lower hepcidin window, or look at a non-training day or a rest day where your iron absorption is maximum for intervention. Because iron carries oxygen, and obviously, so you need iron if you're looking at physical activity and performance, especially in athletes. So vitamin D, I've already talked of how it is not only musculoskeletal function, but in many ways it is again, it's got multiple roles, from not just wellness, which is at body level, and even your brain chemicals are impacted by vitamin D, particularly SAD, seasonal affective disorder, particularly in the Westerners where it's very cold at this time. By default, everybody is recommended to take a small dose of vitamin D. And vitamin D, trust me, I've worked so long, it's so complicated. The vitamin D levels don't increase even after a year of administering supplement. So very, very slow and complicated process. And the ghee, I love the fact that there's ghee being offered here every day. Ghee is good. Vitamin D is a fat-soluble vitamin, so you need to consume it with some ghee. Those guys who kind of steer clear from good fats, you need to consume them in moderation. Yeah, so it's good. And yes, when the immunity is lowered, vitamin D has a direct impact on immunity, because if athletes are going to be frequently ill, and it has happened in the recent times where we had nationals, we had Asian Championship happening in Africa, then Commonwealth Games, then we had Asian Games in Hangzhou, China. Athletes have traveled back to back several countries, and then you realize that they're always sick because of the air travel, change in circadian rhythm, you know, going to foreign countries where they're traveling across time zones, and the immunity falls, but it's natural. But if you take care of good amount of vitamin D and good bacteria, probiotic, their immunity improves, and the frequency of upper respiratory tract infection falls. So this is again something very new. Vitamin B12 is extremely, extremely important for athletes. It's the currency of energy, and B12 is actually what is also needed for nerve conduction, be it in diabetics, be it in athletes. B12 has a very, very important therapeutic role. So if you are an athlete and if you want to have a good mental acuity, you want to be sharp, you, like some sir mentioned about shooters or archery, you need, if you want to be sharp, you need that B12 optimal level, particularly in vegetarians. And as you age, the B12 level falls. And B12, if you're more stressed, and a person like me perhaps who spends a lot more, so B12 is going to be used if you're an athlete, and if you are into physical activity or you're stressed during exam time. So I think all your children should ensure you take good amounts of B12, because that will really help your cognition and brain function too. Yes, and if you don't take care of it, you're going to be highly fatigued, you'll have finger twitching, you'll feel giddy, you're always exhausted. You sleep through the night, you wake up tired. That's B12 for you. So this is something we pick up just in our interaction, and we pick up cues. And one thing I wanted to definitely highlight was water intake with electrolytes, salt, and it's before, during, after, and not necessarily always during training, because hydration, everybody mistakes hydration to be only restricted to training time. It's not. You consume some water even before training, but ensure that you take the salt, which is nothing but your sodium. And salt and carbohydrates help retain water during your training too, if it's more than 1 hour. Simple, 1 teaspoon of sugar or jaggery, honey, any sweetener, and a few pinches of salt is isotonic drink, and that will help you retain body water and prevent exercise-induced hyponatremia or any heat stress, particularly in hot, humid climatic conditions. And after workout, always remember you weigh yourself and consume equal amount of the water to the lost body weight. I think that is, and as long as your urine color is transparent and pale, that is a good parameter to evaluate. So, yeah, I think I've lost one slide, but nonetheless, here what I said was eat immediately, hydrate immediately, and you always have a combination of carbohydrate and protein. And most importantly, high fiber should be avoided, high fat too, because then if you have multiple training sessions, you want to enhance the digestion process. Fats and fibers slow down digestion, but do consume at least 2 to 3 serves of local and seasonal fruits and dark colored vegetables that give you the antioxidant. And one slide that I've missed was on sleep. A lot of work being done on sleep, because you know, athletes who train very late in the night, they're so excited and their metabolic rate has gone up. And also when they consume very high carb meals, it lowers, insulin goes up, growth hormone falls. So which means when the growth hormone is released in midnight, they have changed their entire rhythm. And it happens all the time. You know, like yoga says, it's so wonderful to see that we have similar, you know, approach. We say, yes, rise and sleep whenever possible, you know, to this rhythm, the biological clock or the circadian rhythm, because there are hormones that can change. And one aspect of sleep is, I'm also a mother to almost an 18-year-old boy, so I think I relate to the distraction of mobile phone, and I think sadly, you know, it's changed the existence for all of us, I trust. I see several of you on the mobile phone even as we speak. So yes, and unfortunately, yes, it does distract you from good deep sleep, because there's less time spent on sleep, and athletes need at least 8.5 hours of sleep, which is not possible many times. And one aspect I want to touch upon is female athletes. Very nascent, a lot of work needs to be done in India, because their hormones change all the time, unlike men who are just totally driven by testosterone. We are dealing with, you know, at least 2-3 hormones that change, and obviously our body and our mind is influenced by these hormones. And of course, we store more adipose tissue for physiological reasons as gender, but we also burn more fats. And of course, a male, because of testosterone, has more muscle mass, and obviously also can easily gain the muscle, unlike women. So in the estrogen phase, that is from day 1 of your menstrual cycle all the way till you ovulate, that is your day 11 on an average, what happens is the ability to, where estrogen is increasing around the time of ovulation, and that's the time now, and this is very rudimentary research suggestion, but there's a lot of work being done in the, you know, Western world, and we need to emulate that here in our community. So we use more carbohydrates till ovulation, and perhaps more cardio is better for female athletes till then. These are the suggestions from the rudimentary research, but that's more work that needs to be done. And as we arrive towards the ovulation time, the strength starts picking up, and that's when you want female athletes to actually enhance their training towards strength training, where they're having more power. And obviously, if there's more strength training, you will also look at more proteins. So the diet pattern can change. And obviously, in the first phase, we're using carbohydrates, but post-ovulation, when the progesterone goes up, which is the luteal phase, you're using more fats. So, and one aspect I wanted to touch upon, premenstrual syndrome. I'm sorry that my slides have not got updated. I did take the trouble to make them this morning, sorry. But yes, taking care of premenstrual syndrome, in some athletes, even the menstruation can be very painful. And we can, in some way, alleviate that by including relaxing, helping them to relax by adding magnesium, omega-3, taking care of certain nutritional deficiencies for that matter. In some way we can address premenstrual syndrome and even the first 1 or 2 days of menstrual cycle by adding omega-3 and even vitamin B6. And of course, cooked meals which can ease digestion, because fiber is difficult to digest. It will make the bloating worse. It's, I think, your Vata constitution, which I'm learning here. And if you consume less food, which many times happens, we no longer call it female athlete triad, but we call it low energy availability or relative energy deficiency in sports. So if a female is already in aesthetic sport as gymnastic, like we just saw Sir mentioning, or you have swimmers who need to fit into a very tight, figure-hugging bodysuit, yeah, there is a lot of pressure to, it's called weight making. So they go on crash diets. And if I've had a case where a girl has a lot of menstrual, she lost 10 kgs, but the silly girl didn't realize she lost her menstrual cycle for 8 months, which is dangerous. As is testosterone to males, estrogen is to females. It helps you build your bones and your muscles. So if you are overtly dieting and you look at very VLCD, very low calorie diets for longer time, you will lose your menstrual cycle, and that's amenorrhea. It's dangerous. That's a big red flag, and coaches, as dietitians, nutritionists, even as doctors, you need to ask these questions to your clients. And then there's ergogenic aid. I will take last 1 or 2 minutes. So caffeine is very popular, or rather from the IOC consensus statement or the Australian Institute of Sports, which is where these are the pioneers who's given out the evidence-based, group A. They have categorized what is evidence-based, what is banned. World Anti-Doping Agency updates their banned list or their entire recommendations, their recommendations every year, January 1st. So caffeine can be a good ergogenic aid, and you can consume anywhere between 3 to 5 mg per kg body weight a few minutes prior to your competition tournament or your fag-in. But however, it's a stimulant, so sometimes it can give you an urge of a bowel movement. And it's a C and a stimulant, and for endurance activity, it can actually help enhance fat oxidation. And one important buffering agent is beta-alanine, where there is high-intensity workout and there is acidosis. So there is a breakdown of ATP or your energy, and the hydrogen ions build up and enhances oxygen carrying capacity, VO2 max. So in high-intensity workout, for that matter, even in sprints, it lowers blood pressure, it's a vasodilator. But however, you need to consume it raw for longer duration, and you need to have it as either a beetroot juice, and it's not easy to eat half a kg of beetroot. And yes, a very controversial one, creatine monohydrate, highly evidence-based, very safe and scientific, can be used in very small amount, but carbohydrates are carriers. So those who are looking to enhance muscle mass and strength train, it's definitely safe to consume if you are 18 and above. In younger athletes, yeah, that really needs personalization. So, and when you use supplements, it's always good to use batch-tested products, particularly if you're an elite athlete, because there is so much adulteration, and if you are an elite athlete, you will be subjected to dope test, and you'll be banned from participation and your sporting career. So yes, we cannot oversee this, and today we have smart watches. I have clients who ask me, I spent 1,000 calories today. And I say, how? But my smartwatch has told me that I've spent 1,000 calories on a treadmill. And I'm like, dear God. Anyway, that's an overestimation, but nonetheless, yeah, it can, when used right, I think if we learn how to use this, is still new to me, but yes, technology we cannot avoid, and I think we learned that in the biomechanics session earlier too. So to summarize, carbohydrates and even proteins, when consumed with the right knowledge, the timing, amount, and quality, for that matter, even omega-3, can enhance your performance recovery protocols. Addressing micronutrient and antioxidants extremely important for immunity. And of course, nutrients and exercise should be tailored not just for females, for anybody for that matter. And periodic use of scientific ergogenic aids is safe. So yes, as sports dietitians, we do work with it in the peak season around tournaments. So thank you one and all for your patient hearing.
Thank you, Ms. Geeta. I think you added fuel to the session.
Oh yes, and I'm very sorry, one moment. We are offering a sports nutrition certification by the Ministry of Education. This is in collaboration with IIT Madras. It's called SWAYAM, NPTEL, National Program for Technology Enhanced Learning. It's free to join. It's a wonderful 20-hour course online. You can do this at your own pace. So I'll request and urge for all of you to please enroll. And those who want to do an exam, it's 2 credits for ₹1,000 as fee. I put my heart and soul into it. So please, I'd love for you guys to be there and see you all. So I'm sorry, that was that. And thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Geeta. We have time for 2 questions.
And I can take questions after this outside.
Ma'am, you just said that vitamin B12D and some content to take. So my question to you is that food supplement is useful, and if food supplement is useful, which supplements a student should take in day-to-day life?
Okay, one size fits all is a very wrong approach. We cannot just generalize which supplement a student will need. But I think, in my opinion, it's best always to do a blood test and look at what nutritional deficiencies you have and what is your optimal need. An athlete may need over 100 nanograms or ng of vitamin D because he trains 6 hours a day, 8 hours a day. Or like Sir said, his risk of injury goes up if he doesn't take care of his levels. Whereas for lay people like you and me who just do moderate exercise, even to keep it above 50 is okay. So we do smaller doses of supplements for you. So it's very tailored to your needs and who you are. So, but in my opinion, if you can look at just omega-3, because I believe everybody needs it, a part of your brain, your DHA, your brain, I think an omega-3 has got so many important functions, and we don't get it through diet if you don't eat fish, marine fish. So omega-3, the vitamin D if you have a deficiency, and yeah, and the rest of it I think needs to definitely be personalized, please. And if you're very unwell, maybe a multivitamin. If you're in peak season or if you're too stressed, maybe magnesium. I believe these are fundamental nutrients, but this is purely my opinion, please.
How could we see the biological transmutation or the autophagy? Can the players will be adaptable to that to some extent?
I did not get your question. Can you say that again?
Autophagy.
Yes, we don't, unless and until I talked of training adaptations and we want body composition or physique transformation, an athlete will have multiple sessions and they cannot train past it. Rather, they need to look at higher intakes if they are, in peak season. So this carb cycling and lower carb diets are only for rest periods or off season when they want to look at strength training and they want more protein. But in athletes, unless and until there is a need to cut out carbs, which is again periodized to certain days of the week or only in off season, because if they train, and see in my kind of work, I work only with elite athletes, meaning that they're all professional athletes. They're either doing national, state level, or internationally. They're representing my country somewhere else. So these athletes have high demands, and the lack of nutrients can lead to other issues, including injury. So in them, we don't do these kind of prolonged fasts. All right, thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Geeta,
Yes.
and it's been a wonderful.
Thank you very much. Now I request both the chairpersons to felicitate today's speakers, starting with Dr. H.R. Nagendra Guruji. I request Dr. Ashok and Dr. Raghavendra to kindly felicitate our speakers. I now request the chairpersons to kindly felicitate Professor Mark Arthur King. Requesting the chairpersons to now felicitate Ms. Geeta for her wonderful presentation on sports nutrition. I call upon Dr. N.K. Manjunath, the Pro Vice Chancellor and Research Director, to kindly felicitate our chairpersons for this wonderful session, who has been instrumental in making this conference happen along with S-VYASA. I request Manjunath sir to also felicitate Dr. Ashok, someone who is instrumental in bringing these two institutions together, S-VYASA and Dayanand Sagar Medical College. It is a privilege to have you here, sir. We are in a conference which is focused on sports, and it is something that we all want to cherish, and therefore we have a special recognition for some people who have done exceptional work in their field. Today we will be having one such special recognition given to Dr. Yuvraj Kumar Govindaswamy Dayalan, who is among us today. I request Manjunath sir to kindly speak about Dr. Yuvraj, and then we will have our technical team playing a small video about. I request all the chairpersons and speakers to kindly stay back for this felicitation.
Big round of applause to Yuva Dayal. If in a simplest way, if I have to say, we all are so proud of a person by name Yuva Dayal. Is this the only person, probably, I don't know, who has represented 3 countries. India, he is still an athlete representing India, Indian contingent in badminton. He has represented Hong Kong in badminton in all levels of international games. And he was also the coach of Chinese badminton team which participated in 2018 Olympics. And he is not just a player, he is a coach. He has worked with the who's who of badminton. You take a name of badminton today and also the coaches of badminton, including Gopi Chand, Saina Nehwal, Sindhu, etc. His shadow is there all around, and he's a next to Gopi Chand, who has been the senior most person representing India for long. Apart from as an athlete, his life has been very successful. More than that, there is an importance for him to be here. He is a greatest yoga practitioner, and he has introduced yoga for whatever we are telling today, optimal performance, injury prevention and rehabilitation. He has done all that in the field of badminton and also contributed to several other areas. He is also one of the biggest entrepreneurs, which we were not knowing. He has built the biggest of the big sports complexes and facilities in multiple countries, including China, Hong Kong, India, and several others. Big round of applause to Yuva Dayal. It's a privilege having an athlete, an entrepreneur, yoga practitioner here with us today. He is also blessed with children. Both of them at different ages are greatest yoga practitioners. And his son is one of the budding badminton players. It's a privilege having Daya. Can we have...
I request Guruji and all the speakers and chairpersons, including Manjunath sir, to kindly felicitate Dr. Yuvraj Kumar Govindaswamy Dayalan. You are Dayalan. Can we have a big round of applause for some great sports personality like him?